anything is a starting point. You just need to begin. You are valuable, you are worthy, your thoughts matter, your opinions matter, your voice is strong, you are always seen, your spark is always there, full stop, period.
From To Be Magnetic, this is the Expanded Podcast with your host, Lacey Phillips.
And your host, Jessica Gill.
As the leading destination for neural manifestation, we dispel the woo-woo in order to help you create real, tangible results based on neuroplasticity, psychology, epigenetics, and energetics. Our goal is to normalize the practice of manifestation and empower you to get into the driver's seat of your life in order to manifest the experiences, relationships, and things that most align with your authenticity. Part of our manifestation process entails expanding past your limiting subconscious beliefs. Therefore, by tuning into this podcast with interviews from experts, thought leaders, spiritual teachers, scientists, and those with neural manifestation success stories, you're starting the process of expanding your subconscious in order to see to believe that anything you desire is possible. And by pressing play, the process begins.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Expanded. Jessica here. I tried something new this week and I posted on my Instagram story, send me, what themes and topics you guys have coming up so I can try to touch on it in the intro. And it's so funny because so many of your responses are A, very on par for what I'm going through right now, but B, is actually covered in the episode today. So some of the themes you guys said you're going through is navigating transitional periods, knowing how to do that with grace, understanding patience with your manifestations, letting go of older chapters. A lot of you are in rock bottoms, breakups, endings of a career, body image rock bottoms, shadow aspects that are presenting as a rock bottom, lots of repressed anger, navigating anger, and this deep feeling of why is this coming up again? I thought I worked through it. If you are feeling any of these things, you are not alone. The community is all going through this right now. And I think it's a really beautiful invitation. I think when one person's going through something, you can kind of thematically see how it connects to everyone else in community. And at least for me, what I'm noticing at this moment is I was recently definitely rock bottomed. And as I was going through and kind of navigating, I had a lot of manifestations come in through the challenge. I had some bigger ones that, are slowly coming in over time. But the real root of the rock bottom, I feel, was asking me to look at shadow aspects. Parts of me that I've been thinking I've moved past or in lots of ways have up-leveled, but there's still more to look at there. And so if you're in the rock bottom workshop, or even when you go to day one, there's this one section about the gift. And it really boils down to where are you not in alignment with your worth and with your authenticity in what you're calling in. And so for me, the rock bottom came in the form of where do I still not feel good enough? How are my actions, behaviors, the interactions I have with other people, the way that I'm playing small, the way that I'm settling, where am I still communicating to myself that I'm not good enough? And I need to take a deep, deep look at that. And the universe was like, you need to pay attention to this because there's a lot more we want to connect with you, to give to you, to grow into your whole authentic self in this world. And you still have some healing to do in that space. So if you're rock bottoming, I am right there along with you. And so here's any tips I have around how I'm navigating it. So the first thing is, when you're in these transitional periods, whether you're at a rock bottom or whether you're just transitioning to an up level or transitioning to a new found sense of self with a manifestation come through, or maybe you're going through an ending of one chapter and a beginning of something new, embrace the wave. Embrace the emotions that are coming up, process those emotions, investigate this transition period as an invitation, and give yourself compassion. Because when we are in those transitional periods, it's so important to yes, reflect, and yes, you can refine and prepare for maybe that next chapter. But I think more than all of that, it's hard to get clarity until you really understand what is the invitation here being asked of you, right? And so in my case with the rock bottom, it's where do you still not feel good enough? And how can you start to peel back some memories or some pieces and help heal and integrate that further? And give yourself grace that, when someone wrote in, they have this feeling, why is this coming up again? Really give yourself compassion. We talked about the episode last week with Emily, and sit with yourself and say, it's okay. This doesn't mean I'm a failure. This doesn't mean I haven't healed things. This doesn't mean that I lost all my self-confidence or my self-worth. It didn't go anywhere. You're just in a transitional period and it's totally okay. And you are right on time for your healing. So try to give yourself compassion and lean into the things that bring you joy. I know whenever I'm in a rock bottom, I can definitely slip into periods of depression and want to just self-isolate and numb and go internal. And as I, was giving myself compassion to do that certain days, I was also really, truly trying to say, okay, I know this walk in nature is going to give me peace of mind and solace and make me feel a little bit better. How can I do those little wins for myself? I think those are so important. So today's episode is with Salwa Kyobe, and it is all around finding your voice, processing anger and understanding what healthy anger is, and also allowing yourself to be seen through seeing yourself. You heard me share all the topics that you guys wrote in that you're going through right now, and I'm telling you, this episode is going to it's almost like listening in. I was listening back during the edit this week, and listening back in, it almost allowed me space to give myself compassion because Salwa has such great insight and vulnerability in her process that I'm like, oh gosh, okay, if she goes through that and she's so confident and in her power and self-worth, I can do that too. And I think you guys will have a very similar reaction to listening to this episode. So tune in, enjoy. It's something that I know I will be re-listening to again when I need this reminder or when I'm going through something difficult. And Salwa already announced on our live call for the Manifestation Challenge, but she is graduating on from TBM and launching into her next chapter of her career. She's in her own transition, and you can follow her and connect with her on her Instagram. It's linked in the show notes. It'll be linked for the episode, as well as on Fundamental Hunger. And follow along her journey. It's really, really beautiful to see. We're so sad to see her go from TBM. We love her so much. And she's been so incredible to the company and to all of you guys, and as a coach and as a source of wisdom and inspiration for this community. So be sure to check out all of her stuff going forward in the future. And one big update, those of you who love Supported, we now have 75 volumes, and we are going to leave it up as a library for anyone to access at any time. For anyone that doesn't know, for our Pathway members, we have a once a month manifestation question class where you can submit questions and get them answered. And we are up leveling it now so you guys can see us, connect with us in real time, and it will be on video, but we are doing it under the monthly check-in. So the monthly check-in is our workshop where you guys can go in and find your patterning each month, helps keep you accountable and really check in with your practice and stay consistent. But we're going to do a monthly check-in live call. So I'll be hosting, and then we'll have Lacey and the TBM coaches and Janelle kind of circling through. We'll do it different times of the day so we can hit different time zones. You'll have 24 hours to submit a question, and we'll go over the most pressing questions that are coming up for you guys. And it'll all be in community. So if anything's not answered or you want to find an accountability buddy, you can do it right then and there in the monthly check-in live call. So the first one is kicking off next Wednesday, 2/22 at 12 p.m. with Lacey and I. We are so excited. I think this is really going to keep you guys accountable and on track with your manifestation practice. So can't wait to see you then.
And now a word from our partners.
So you know how much we love the Seed Symbiotic, the pre and probiotic combo here at To Be Magnetic. And what I really love about it is I'm someone who has struggled with gut issues and digestive issues and stress issues pretty much my whole life. And so having a high quality probiotic is a non-negotiable. I've taken 1,000,001 different kinds of probiotics on the market, and none of them really pack the punch and seem to be doing an impact that kept me consistent until Seed. Because Seed created their VitaCap, which is a capsule that their pre and probiotic live in, it was scientifically engineered to survive stomach acid, bile, salts, enzyme, to get 100% of everything that's in the capsule to the right part of your digestive system and populate with good bacteria. Learning the science behind all things is a huge passion of mine. And so I've been deep diving into the Seed University of all of their education and science that they have behind their product. They're the most science-backed research probiotic I've found on the market. So a lot of times you hear kombucha, kimchi, fermented foods. If you're eating that, then you're getting enough probiotic. But the truth is you really need a regular quality probiotic in order to have the most diverse, good gut bacteria to help balance your stomach microbiome. It has been so helpful for me. I will not go anywhere without it. It is the first thing I do when I get up in the morning with my cup of lemon water. And I highly recommend it to anyone who is looking to support their GI function, skin health, heart health, gut, immune, gut barrier integrity, or anyone that just really has digestive issues. There's so many things that need to be in homeostasis in order for that to be supportive. And this is the foundation of what is going to set you up for good gut health overall. And so exciting, we've been partnering with Seed for so long that they've increased the discount for you guys. Use the code TBM20 to receive 20% off your first month of Seed's Daily Symbiotic. I am so excited for you guys to try this out. It's been a game changer in my gut health, and I know it will be for yours as well. You can check the link in the show note or go to seed.com/TBM. As you guys know, we are huge fans of Beekeepers Natural over here at To Be Magnetic. The Propolis throat spray is on lock with me wherever I go 24/7, just helping to boost my immune. They are an all organic, natural bee products company that really helps support our brain, gut, health, immune, etc. One product I've been leaning on a ton as we've been gearing up for a brand new launch for the To Be Magnetic community is their Royal Jelly Brain Fuel. So oftentimes when I'm in states of intense stress, my brain is so active during the night that I have a hard time falling into deep REM sleep. And whenever that happens, I know I'm going to wake up with brain fog. And one of the best, cleanest ways I've found to clear brain fog is with this Royal Jelly Brain Fuel. It is a proprietary potent blend of royal jelly and adaptogens that really help cognitive function. So as you might remember from my episode with founder Carly Stein, royal jelly is an incredible brain food. It helps support the brain in neurogenesis, which is creating new neurons. It's clearing out the old ones and bringing in new ones. They also have Bacopa monnieri in there, which is an adaptogenic herb that enhances brain function, supporting the brain's ability to learn and retain information. And they also have ginkgo biloba, which is another herb that boosts blood flow to the brain and helps with learning, focus, and memory. So all of these things together work as a powerhouse to support your brain in a way that doesn't give you jitters. You're not shaky, whereas like some other brain fuels will add that to you, especially if they have caffeine in them. This is just a very clean way to enhance your mental clarity and focus. And so what I'll do is when I wake up with that brain fog, there are little vials, there are 6 in a package. I'll take maybe a third to a half little sip of them and then have my regular morning routine, breakfast food, etc. And within a half hour already, I notice an immediate difference. It's like a strong alertness, a feeling like the brain fog has completely subsided, and I'm able to power through the day with flow and confidence. And the other thing I love, like all other Beekeepers Natural products, this is made with completely clean ingredients. Keto, paleo, gluten-free, natural, third-party tested, no artificial colors, preservatives, fillers, alcohol, gluten, GMOs, pesticide, refined sugars. It is completely clean. It is the best way to support your brain, especially on those days when you have a lot of stress or maybe you didn't get the rest that you needed, and really helps to reset you and completely change your day ahead. So if you want to try out the Royal Jelly Brain Fuel or any other Beekeeper's Natural products, you can use the code TBM to get 25% off your first order. That's TBM for 25% off your first order. Or you can go to beekeepersnaturals.com and use the code TBM to get 25% off your first order.
All right, on to the episode.
Welcome, Salwa, to the Expanded Podcast. We're so excited to have you back on. I feel like you and I haven't done an episode since, our People-Pleasing Perfectionist one?
I was thinking that too. I was like, my first interview with you was my process episode on Christmas Eve of 2019, like a couple weeks after I was actually communicating on Hinge with my now partner, like before my first big manifestation of my apartment in Soho. I'm such a different person before I even was invited to become a coach. Like, it's wild.
I know. I think that was it had to be one of my first process guests, because that January is when I first started taking over as co-host and like taking more and more and more episodes. But I remember even when we recorded, I was like, dang, this girl's got really good insights. I was like, she knows, like she's got it down. So funny to see the evolution of there too.
And it's even, the topic of finding your voice and you saying that, for me to agree with you, that took time, because even you seeing that, but I didn't necessarily embody that or recognize that or own it, declare it when you were talking to me then either. And that's been a whole journey.
It's so true. And I think, okay, so this is such a big topic that comes up for people, especially in the day of social media. I think that quote that Lacey has said is really burned in everyone's mind. If you're not growing in your business or in your career, in your social following, like, where are you hiding? And I think that kind of goes into the like, where am I hiding? And what do I want to say? And what is my voice? And I think finding your voice touches into purpose in a lot of ways. In trying to figure out, okay, who am I authentically? Well, what do I want to say? And what do I want to talk on? And there's so much pressure to really discern, who am I and how do I speak as I'm evolving versus like this completed version of voice. How do you see it?
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's that lack of patience too, because people, and myself too, want to quickly be the teacher, be the expert, and not really be the student of themselves, of what does that even mean to be authentically myself? What are the stories that are muffling my voice, my truth? Where am I hiding from myself? What are the things I'm still ashamed about, or like not wanting to really just become intimate with and have like be in relationship with those versions of who you are, to allow that to organically happen? Otherwise, we're scared, we're shameful, and then we want to skip steps. Our ego's like, no, we're here. Okay, so what do we do? And how many likes do we need to get? And how many clients do I need to have to mask that like insecurity? As opposed to, actually, if you start to witness your own voice and recognizing your own talent, the less and less you're going to need that external validation, because you see yourself. Well, how do I see myself? And again, it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. You suddenly all of a sudden are like, wow, I'm changing, I'm different. And it just kind of starts with just getting to know yourself, as opposed to, what do I need to be for other people to tell me that I'm valuable?
Okay, this could be an interesting example of it. But when you think about the times that you were speaking from that place of you're like, I felt the people pleasing, or I felt like I was trying to perform for XYZ person, what were the thoughts in your head versus when you're speaking from your authenticity voice? What are the thoughts in your head?
The thoughts in my head when I am needing that external validation, that insecurity, the thoughts are, no one wants to hear from you. You're not smart enough. You're a charity case. And everyone's kind of doing you a favor to listen to you right now. I would say that's definitely a theme and branches off of those kind of wounds again. And then from a more present, this is who I am, I accept that this is where I am in my growth, that kind of presence, and not trying to rush or skip a step of like completion, quote unquote, or perfection or an expert, but just like, this is Salwa today. I'm open. I feel available. It's just like way more present. I almost don't even hear a lot of thoughts. I'm listening to you and I'm answering your question.
Yes.
But I mean, outside of these conversations, the reinforcement or like the powerful ones is really like, you are valuable, you are worthy, your thoughts matter, your opinions matter, your voice is strong, you are always seen, your spark is always there, full stop, period. And so those are kind of some more powerful thoughts. But I would say when I'm really present and I'm not trying to perform or get the correct answer or trying to be someone who is, will the community like what I'm saying? Will this person like what I'm saying? All these like low self-worth thoughts that came in, especially when I started coaching, I'm not present. I'm just like performing. I'm trying to be something. But when I'm with you now, even I was telling you earlier, I'm like, a long time ago, if I was recording a podcast with you, I would have been writing every note. What am I going to say? This, and this. Okay. Practice how you're going to say it. Highlight the thing. Just like, and not leaving any room for just being myself and knowing that like, I trust what's going to come to me. Do I have some bullet points? Sure. But like, even that is so different from where I am now because I trust that I'll show up for myself. I think that's more what it is. Even if I don't say it the correct way or after this episode, I'm like, oh, I could have done that. Okay. But you showed up for yourself.
And I think that's a muscle. So many people think, you either can public speak or you can't. You can either show up on socials or you can't. Like, it's not, it's a muscle. Mm-hmm. And there's especially, I was just talking with Janelle about this. We were recording earlier and our banter back and forth right before recording was so good. I'm like, dang, I wish we recorded it. And then we went on and she was like, oh, I hope that was good. Cause I felt like my energy shifted, once the button hit record. And I was like, yeah, it's the red button effect. The second you know that it's going to other people, our filters come up, our limiting beliefs come up. We start going through the lens of, okay, how are all the places I'm going to be rejected for whatever I'm saying? And I love how you described when you are in true presence, that's when the filters are down and you really hear your authenticity because it's you in the moment. You're not calculating who you should be or how you want to be perceived or whatever. You're being perceived. You perceive yourself. It's just innate. It's happening in the moment.
And the red button effect, I love that. That's so true. It's so true. And I mean, when I used to do, the coaches, we would have these Zoom calls. I remember the first several ones, I would cry afterwards for the first 4 or 5. And I'm talking to Tommy, my partner. I'm like, oh my God, I said it this way. I didn't mean it that way. Oh my God, I could have said this. I think that was confusing, my thoughts. And I didn't do a good job. I am the charity case. No one actually does want to hear from me. Like all of that came in. I was so, and I'm sure people listen to this like, wait, you did? Like, I loved that episode.
Yeah, that was my favorite.
It's all you. But even now, I mean, that hasn't happened in a long time. And if it happens again one day, okay, maybe. But yeah, it's just that like constant criticism and like trying to be perfect as opposed to just, can I love where I'm at right now? And can that be enough? And can I trust that even if it's just one person who took something from that's great.
And I think, debunking all of those things that you're saying, right? It's like taking a look at it and you're like, okay, is this an assumption? Am I assuming that everyone has seen me through this lens? What is the hope or the crack or the opening? Is there another way? Is there another way they could perceive me? I mean, that was such a big thing moving into hosting Expanded because the beginning I was like, oh, I'm not Lacey. They're going to hate me. Okay, should I be more like Lacey? But then I'm copying her. I don't want to be just like Lacey. I'm different. But like, okay, what's my voice? Who's listening to me? I don't deserve to be here. The tailspin.
All of it.
And it's interesting because I know when all of those things were ruminating, my filler words were going nuts. Like, but every 5 seconds was a pause to think about, how do I say this perfect?
Mm-hmm.
Instead, when you're in that moment, you don't need, if I do use a filler word, it's because I have a lot of thoughts to share. It's not because
same. So many just racing.
But it's not from the, who is this going to? And I think it took saying, well, all right, yes, I'm sure people don't like me, but what if some do? And what if me speaking honestly and openly or from the heart or being my weird, quirky self, which comes out sometimes, what if that's someone else's inspiration? Why would I deny them that? And then to the root, why would I deny myself that?
Yeah, absolutely. And what am I doing that is just trying to get people to receive like oh no, I need to convince them that I do belong here. How can I convince them that I belong here, that I'm good and that I'm worthy? Like how do I convince them? What version of myself needs to show up to convince them that I belong here? And you being authentically you is immediately going to eliminate millions of people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because you cannot be authentically yourself and have everyone admire and like you or want to listen to you. That's just not possible. It literally is not possible. And I think that's a big one too with finding your voice is not how do I find my voice that everyone likes versus accepting, acknowledging that my voice is not going to be liked by everyone. And that's kind of the point. Like, yeah, of course not. You want to attract and have opportunities and relationships with people who are aligned and connect and grow from there. And it's not going to be every single person.
And I think that perspective that you're saying allows you to take your power back. It allows you to say, oh, I'm indebted to all of these people out there who I can't see or meet in real life. I'm just hoping, like, please, please like me, versus I want to be my true self. And I only want to talk to people who resonate with that. And if you don't resonate, totally fine. Like, go, find somewhere else that resonates with you. But if you do resonate, like, let's be in community together.
And also not waiting. I see this so much in myself and clients. It's like, oh, I need this huge audience and then I'm going to show up as myself. You're waiting for the weight of millions of eyes to give you permission to now suddenly you're going to just be authentic. Like, no, your audience, first of all, is you, yourself. And that is enough for you to say whatever you need to say and create whatever it is that you're needing to create as opposed to waiting for permission. And that was a really big pattern for me. And definitely in career, which was my biggest testing ground, if you will, around like needing permission from others or an entity to feel capable or like, oh, you are powerful. Now your spark is on because we've seen you, as opposed to, no, it's there all the time. And I get to choose when to use it. And these people or whoever I'm interacting with, they are also getting a value. I'm not waiting for them to give me value. We're both winning in this situation because I am valuable too.
Okay, so how did you get to, I guess, two parts. One part, how did you recognize the way you were trying to get the needs met beneath it, trying to get the need met of being seen, being valuable before that was perhaps not aligned with your authenticity? And then how did you sort of reprogram and really see yourself? Like, how did you create space where you're like, no, I don't need XYZ's validation. I'm good. I validated myself, and that's my only stamp of approval I need.
Definitely time and patience, as we've been saying. But I would say when I was always looking for, especially like over identifying with career and titles, that was such a insecurity for me. Like feeling like that is when I'm worthy, is like I'm doing this, I'm working for these people. Oh, that founder has this most incredible idea. Like, what can I do to prop them up as much as possible? And I'm just here in the shadow, and like that's all I'm really meant to be. And overextending myself, that people pleasing, right? Others come before you, which obviously the energy of that is not my voice is powerful. It's like, no, what can I do to ensure other people are happy and okay? And that's very disempowering. I know it was for me. And so I really overextended myself. I really, truly depended on another person, especially in career, to feel worthy. I think in career, especially like after I left my last full-time job and becoming a coach and being invited into that, and just like looking back, I really didn't understand what really big shift I was making. It was just like, cool, I'm going to do this. Like, oh my God, this is going to be great. But I'm like, okay, well, actually, you now are in charge of your own voice. And I was not prepared for that. And that's when I really started to realize, like, wow, you are so relying on someone to tell you what to do or to give you those accolades or all of these things. And I was like, you're now a coach, and like looking into my future, this is the trajectory I'm on. So I'm like, shit has to change. I mean, I have an Aries North Node for anyone who knows what that means. Think of that energy. It's like leadership, standing on your own, declaring your voice, being empowered. And I'm like, this is the journey you're on. This is like even your karmic path. Becoming a coach really made me first identify like, wow, you're not just getting another job anymore. Like you are stepping into your power and like really having to show up and be seen. I think in part two, in terms of going from that realization and moving through finding my voice or strengthening my voice, obviously a lot of inner child work and really, really needing to get intimate with what those stories were. I think that's, again, that part where I'm like, no, I just want to be like the best coach and I want to have all these things and da da da. And those are the details we like to think about, of those external gold stars that will make us feel really powerful, which is always fleeting because it's not coming from within. What are these stories that really are telling me that I don't belong to be here? And how do I start to move through those while in tandem still having to show up and like cry after live calls?
I like want to hold inner child Salwa so bad because I just see that all of that inner child pure innocence in that too, you know?
And she really is, like, when you get down to that authentic, like getting to know your inner child and who they were, or those qualities that you always feel, but you find yourself just like shrinking or playing small or going into those roles that are more familiar but not serving you anymore. And me really seeing like, wow, but she was so sassy and fun, wanting to be a TV host. Like, that's what I wanted to be forever. Like, that's not a coincidence that I'm now kind of doing something similar-ish to that, right? Or like that trajectory of like being on camera or being seen. You wanted to have that authentic performance or like helping other people and like being in the spotlight. But again, like, what are the stories that told you, no, you can't, or like, this is the only way that you can? That is only allotted to those type of people. And you're not that kind of person. So you don't get to, but you can help that kind of person, but you're never going to be that type of person. And really me understanding like, where did that come from? And like, why not me too?
It's interesting, like being in LA and around the entertainment industry in music and film and television, there are people who are, you know, going to be the musicians or the actors or whatever. There's a lot of people behind the scenes, especially in the corporate jobs, that you just interact with them and you're like, you are a performer. Like, that's who you are. Like, why are you in this assisting role when like you really want to be close to it, but you're afraid of it? And it's just like, you can see it in them. They really want to be on that next step, but they have, you know, that internal block that they can't really get there. And so you have a lot of music managers and, you know, talent agents who would have probably had a great career in performance too.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I can relate to that as well. Just like, I want to be there, but I'll get as close as I can be. And this is my wall. And like, I can't cross that line. Like, I can't press go. I have to be right here. And all these people telling me really very affirming things, right? Which is like, oh, you want to be a host? Oh yeah, of course. I can totally see that. And that was that when I realized, I'm like, wow, I wish I could see, you know, when you have that feeling of like, man, I wish I could see what other people see in me. And now I get it. I see what they see. I see it. I finally see it now too. And that's the most liberating thing, because you now don't even need the validation. You don't need the constant reinforcement. It's a beautiful, heartwarming, welcoming, and it's a gift to hear those things and to have that mirrored back to you, but it's not a necessity. I'm not dependent on those things.
And I would probably guess that they come even more frequently when you have already seen it for yourself too.
The markers of progress and success that we give ourselves, that is so one-sided and only one way. And like, my success is like, this is how many people have booked. This is how, you know, becoming a coach really showed me like how many people that you can impact that you will never hear from ever. And I trust that. And like, and I don't need to hear from them anymore, right? Because I've worked on my worth with that. But before, it was like the desperation of, please tell me. It will never be enough, but please keep telling me. But yeah, it comes more frequently, and it's less of a surprise. I believe it more. I receive it, and it's great. And I can also say, yeah, and I agree with you. Thank you so much. It's such a relief to finally say yes, as opposed to, what do they see that I'm not seeing? Like, will I ever see it in my life?
This is the interesting thing. We had like a friendship episode recently, and it got me going down the rabbit holes of like the roles I've played in friendship and the positioning I've played in friendship and all of that stuff. And it got me thinking too about a lot of the best friends I've had throughout different ages and phases. The way I thought about them was they were the front and center and I was the sidekick. I was cool by association, but they were really the front and center. So I'm curious, did that present for you? And where do you think you picked up some of this stuff?
Yeah. And it's funny because it's like, it would be in friendships, some friendships, and it would also be just like any form of career. Career was like the best friend, like the leading role. And I was just like, I'm here now. Like, how do I support this? I'm just a sidekick. I can't believe you chose me. Oh my gosh. Just like this very apologetic energy, not even saying anything, but like almost just like saying sorry, but like with your energy is how I.
Oh, yes.
And it definitely happened. It happened a lot too, even in coaching, and like that wound around feeling like the charity case or the token Black girl. That definitely stems from childhood for sure. My very all white affluent neighborhood that I grew up in, feeling very much, at least how it played out for me, which was like othered, or like that they get these things, whether it's a level of security or admiration and opportunities, whatever it is. And I'm just kind of here. I get to be here, but I'm not here because I really belong. I'm here because they're obligated to have me. And so that wound really came up too with coaching as well. And I would compare myself to other coaches and feeling like people just feel like they have to listen to me, or like they have to book a session, or they're like doing a favor. And it's not because I really have any real value. And that's definitely something that my inner child felt in terms of feeling like that charity case and feeling invisible, all very shadowy things, inferior, all kind of very similar, but they hit a little bit differently based on the memories and the wound, but they're all very similar in the sense of just, I am an afterthought, I'm here, but again, I'm just that obligation.
Yeah. I feel like for anyone who's maybe identifies with how you've grown up and the dynamics, or being around or being in communities where you don't feel represented, how do you begin to unpack that, work through that, look at that, show up for yourself, identify, is this a safe community and I can stand tall in it, or is this not a community that aligns, or, and I need to remove myself? Like, how do you know? Because I think there's more and more of that occurring where people are trying to figure out the dynamics between it. And so for someone that identifies, as feeling like the outsider to a certain community, how do you hold your power? How have you worked through some of those fears or pain points?
There's a couple of things. First, identifying where my inner child specifically, like what are those experiences that made me feel inferior, not safe, not seen, feeling like I couldn't really shine that brightly, or feeling like that charity case. And then also identifying what is the societal reality of that experience that is also very real. Because I've seen people, and even for me too, would be like, oh, well, no, this is just like, I have to reprogram all of this. I have to heal all of this. And yes, there's always something for us internally to look at. But I really found my power as well of letting my inner child know that, like, it's also not your responsibility to change this power dynamic when it comes to race. That is not your responsibility. And so finding that power for her too, and anyone who can relate to needing to dim or apologize or be mindful of what they say as a Black person or any other race that you identify with, and empowering her to be like, this is what happened. It was fucked up. And also let me guide you into like, how can I heal this for the both of us? This is what we have control over. And also, you're not responsible for the entirety of like a community that like made you feel crappy. That's like so not on you. And I think that was a way that I really had to find my voice, and like, yeah, you don't. And you don't have to appease X, Y, and Z. And you don't have to try and fit in or get them to realize why you are valuable. You had to go to school and that every single day for like a decade. That was just kind of like a default in how I would show up in certain situations. And so finding where I needed healing, and then also reinforcing that, like, and also that's not your responsibility. You get to show up and you get to choose where you're going to sit, and you can be and say what you want, how you want to say it. And you don't need to be concerned with how it's going to be perceived. And so making sure that you're also taking accountability for what is yours and what you need to also flip, right? Because I went into this community with some of those realities, and also like, okay, what are you also projecting? Because there's people here that are connecting with you as well. Not allowing myself to dismiss it all because of an actual reality in our society. And then also being like, but wait, there's other lenses that you can look through, and you can stand tall in this community.
I think it's the ultimate both and. Okay, yeah, there's some stuff I could look at myself, but also I would imagine it's probably going through a grief process of like, wow, we have to acknowledge it. Like, this is the real fucked up facts of the situation. And okay, there's nothing I need to change, move, do whatever about myself. And it is what it is. And that sucks. And let's process through that grief and that pain point as well without feeling like you have to be the one to change anything.
Yeah, and not apologizing at all and just feeling like, no, I am here and I was invited to be here and you can listen or you can not listen. And I say that with a level of deservingness that I never thought that I could have. So I think that working through the swoon and taking that accountability for myself and really nurturing my inner child and being like, wait, what did you need then? And how can I empower you to have a voice anywhere that you go, even if you are kind of scared, not showing up with the energy of I am a charity case. Let's change that because that we have the power to change that because this specific situation might be a really big stimulus, right? That is triggering that wound. But like, okay, if I leave, the wound is still there. It's just not getting activated, at least maybe not immediately. So I'm like, this is really an opportunity for me to look at this wound and finally walk through this experience that is such a mirror to my childhood and finally be like, we get to now stand in this in such a different way.
I mean, that is like generational healing. That is like so, so, so powerful to sit with, examine, and it really feels like the embodiment of taking your power back.
Yeah, it is. And it's so liberating. And it's even more liberating for me to feel this way and not from kind of what we were talking about earlier, which is the ego way for me, how it feels like the shame is there, but now you're just, well, no, I can do this and no, F that and da 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 da, as opposed to it feels so integrated because I oscillated between those two parts a lot. Wound to like F this to like wound to, and then really needing to be like, okay, pause. What's really going on here? Like, we're not going to skip any steps and those feelings will still come up, but like, it feels good to feel this way from that integrated place, which is why I feel so at peace and why I feel so at peace with my experience with To Be Magnetic and like my future.
So I'm quickly interrupting this episode to invite you, if you're ready to start your manifestation journey, or if anything you've heard in our manifestation episodes has piqued your interest to begin. We have a la carte workshops in everything from the basics bundle, which is what we recommend to everyone who starts. It's the formula that actually teaches you how to manifest, unblocked inner child, and unblocked shadow. We also have a la carte workshops on love and money. But the real gem is the Pathway membership because it encompasses every single workshop we have. It's a year-long membership with full access to the few a la carte offerings we have and exclusive workshops not available anywhere else, such as the daily practice, which is what everybody in the Pathway uses, hopefully at least 3 times a week to daily in order to truly create the new neural pathways that one needs in order to manifest, and houses the library of our deep imaginings, which is our unique hypnosis process that allows you to get into your subconscious and overwrite those old neural pathways, creating the new ones. You can use our special code EXPANDED, all caps, EXPANDED, to receive $20 off your first a la carte workshop purchase or $20 off your first month of the Pathway. Again, that's all caps, EXPANDED, EXPANDED. Okay, now back to the episode.
I think that's a really interesting element too, is like as we start to become aware of dynamics and aware of what's playing out and all of those things, I think our anger is the best fuel, especially for people pleasers, because I saw a post the other day that said, your anger is a part of you that is standing up for you where a boundary or an issue has been crossed.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of saying like, oh, suppress the anger or go talk shit for hours or whatever, however you want to express that anger, let's invite it to see how we can, instead of using the anger to protect us, how can we say, thank you, anger, for alerting me to something that's not aligned? What boundaries do I need to set? How can my higher self now show up and almost protect the anger in a way?
Yeah, I love that. And I think I've seen a similar post. It's just information of like, yeah, like you said, a boundary has been crossed. I'm feeling taken advantage of. This is information where I have possibly betrayed myself. And I'm now at the point where I'm kind of seeing red. And there is that part, right, where that anger, and I am a very fiery person. I think that there's power in acknowledging that and then also knowing where does it really need to be challenged in a way that's more empowering long term.
Yes.
So that's like, okay, I'm really angry because like where am I so angry and so resentful that I have allowed certain things to happen, and it took this much for me to actually finally listen to that as well. I think that anger, and when I'm having those moments of like, oh my God, I'm almost seeing red, it's like, yeah, because you've been ignoring it, or you haven't acknowledged or taken the time to remind yourself that you have a choice, or that you have something to say, or you have an emotion that needs to be looked at or felt through. So acknowledging that anger is so powerful. It's information for you to be like, okay, something is messed up. This is where I went left and left and left when I should have taken right a long time ago. Any of those indicators. And then what do you want to do with that anger? How can I now use that to empower my inner child? Do the work, do a DI, do that journaling, really understand what are my boundaries, where have I crossed my own boundaries or my own integrity over and over again that I am so angry, so that again, you're not using that anger to only blame it on the source, even if something or someone has harmed you, that I think that is valid. But also the more empowering thing is like, okay, how am I going to make sure that this maybe doesn't happen again? And using that power for you to, or that anger to find your voice, but not from a place of, again, just burning it down and walking away and not really understanding the lesson or like what you needed to heal in that moment.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that was so well said. And even thinking that, like, where have I not followed my own integrity? Where have I crossed my own boundaries? I think so many times when the anger comes up, it's like pointing the finger. And I think there is space to acknowledge when a rupture has occurred, when something has like gone awry and you're like, that didn't feel right, that person's behaviors or whatever it is. But take your situation that you're angry about and then think, okay, if this isn't a warning sign, to then look at the ways that I haven't honoring myself. I haven't been standing up for myself. I haven't been listening to my pings and my intuition. How can I then make a new decision and protect like inner child you? I mean, I'm always curious how to process anger in like a better and more holistic way to like really get it out, because anger gets so stuck in my body. Like if I'm angry, tension headaches, migraines, I'm just like, do I punch a pill? Like, how do I get this out? I'm just like wanted to go. But I think having moments where you can process, but then thinking, okay, I have a choice. How can I now stand up for me and show up for me?
And what you just said also reminded me of when we are afraid of that anger, or especially in the TBM community, my clients, I hear a lot of people really try and quickly move into a fake form of grace because they want to either be the bigger person, which is out of also ego, or they just see that as like, okay, no, just do this and have grace because that means your manifestation is going to come or whatever. You're just bypassing. And so knowing that that anger might take time, in order to process that, you're going to know when you specifically have decided, okay, I've lived in anger for too long. Like I'm now making a home here. I need to move through this anger a little bit. I'm still angry. How can I channel this anger today? You're not bypassing it. And then it's not going off unchecked, because then you suppress it. And then what are you going to get angry about? Something else that has nothing to do with literally why you're actually so upset.
That's when Daniel will catch strays when I'm like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, what are you holding down there, girl? What's going on? And I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, it's not about your oatmeal this morning. I could tell you that much. So you can really get checked where you haven't sat and processed with it.
Yeah. And I think that that's all about going back to, really just creating intimacy with it. Like, what does it really have to tell me? What does it have to say? And if you're not asking those questions or going in your body and asking those questions, it's just going to eventually cool down. It's just being recycled. there's no actual real release and understanding of what that means, or what that indicator is for you specifically, because we're all very different in the way in which we are angered or how we feel anger in our body, just like you said, in terms of migraines and all of this stuff, so that you can know and not be afraid of what this means for you. And it's an indicator of like, ooh, yeah, something's going on.
Okay, so now even thinking of having your voice, finding your voice, your authentic voice. And I think anger can present as I guess, a false sense of empowerment sometimes. And I know probably one of my shadow wounds or whatever is like, oh, I never, I'm in a very spiritual healing space. I never want to come off aggressive. I never want to come off angry or mean or nasty. I want it to be a safe space and blah, blah, blah. And while all of those are great intentions, we're humans with spectrums of emotions. And so, how do you navigate having these different emotional states and feeling safe to speak freely and openly about whatever you want?
I think that's a big one in terms of, going back to like, okay, I just want to have grace, and like, this is the definition, and it speaks like this, and it doesn't get angry, and it doesn't react, and all these kind of also human, like we're humans, and we have every spectrum of an emotion. I'm not scared of my anger. And I also want to bring this back to people's definition of grace and what that means, and who gets to have it and who doesn't, who gets to speak confidently and is called aggressive, who gets to speak with passion and maybe a little bit of anger, and now you're suddenly reactive, and you're non-spiritual. I identify obviously as a Black woman, so there's going to be, and has been, and in my childhood, where it's like, oh, you have to receive this type of behavior from someone else, but you have to smile and be kind with the way that you respond. That's a no for me. That is a no for me. And that's now a no for my inner child too, to be safe, to be like, you know what? You can have anger that is not hurtful of others. It's not maybe like super reactive or manipulative or there to like cut and to hurt. Like that's very different than just being like, no, I am angry about this thing, and I'm going to talk differently than when I am happy about something. That is just the truth, right? And so I'm not afraid to show that, and like that my voice will reflect like, I am angry. Even right now, my voice is like has a different tone because we're talking about this anger, and I know where that feels, and I'm no longer being a people pleaser. I'm not scared of feeling that and emoting that. And I trust with the best intention, and I trust, and I have relationships with my life with people like my partner, Tommy, who is less fiery than me, let's just say. And the difference is not like, oh, forget your opinions. It's more of like, but we have such amazing, healthy conversations. So like my voice is saying this, or I'm feeling angry, but like, I'm not dismissing you. We're not dismissing each other. We're hearing each other. We're like taking pauses. We're reflecting in the moment. That is far more beneficial than like me trying to come off calm and peaceful. You have to get to know your anger, so you're not always trying to come off as this monk or this person who who only sees rainbows and light and love. That's fine that you see that a lot too, but the more you're intimate with what that anger means to you, the more you're afraid of expressing it, because there's no shame around that anger. I'm not hiding it anymore. I let my inner child have anger. I will do DIs, and I just let her like get it out, go off, And I do that for myself too, because again, there's information there, but how do I move through to a place of compassion, real compassion for myself and other people, and bypass this other emotion?
And I think also what I'm hearing from what you're saying and what I'm taking away is like, you're able to tap into that authentic voice at all times, in part because you have a healthy relationship with your anger.
Mm-hmm.
You know when it's in balance, oh, okay, wow, if this is going to be one of those jabs or wound, intending to injure someone else, you can probably check that 5 miles before it even comes. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I know when it comes, I'm like, oh, swallow it. Nope.
It's definitely something we were never taught, and I think so powerful. And I think especially for anyone that identifies as a female in this society, understanding the power from that felt expression of it and understanding how to have a healthy relationship with anger is such a superpower. Like, it is such an integral part of finding your voice, because you have to have a healthy balance with it to have an authentic voice.
100%. And it's like, if there's shame around, oh, it's emotional, it's too much. Like, yeah, I'm an emotional person. 100%. I am emotional. Thank God. I don't deny that anymore. And anger is is an emotion. Yeah. So I think it's really removing that shame and not trying to be, like you said, kind of this box that we put this kind of spirituality in, which is like, it looks like this, it acts like this, it sounds like this. You're so evolved that you never are angry or like, whatever. It's like, no, that's not true.
True evolution is acknowledging every spectrum of the emotional spectrum and knowing that you're going to have that and feel that. And what does that look like in an authentic, integrated way for you? And sometimes you're going to step out of bounds of what is authentic, and that's normal. And having compassion for that is spiritual and integrated.
Yes. And I think this just came to me too, is for a while too, being a coach, it's like, oh, well, don't be angry, because then people are just going to think that you're triggered and like you're just acting out of your trigger. I think that's a dig that a lot of people can say, which is like, oh, that person's angry, they're just triggered.
Or they're blocked. That's just their
Yeah.
block.
So it's just like, oh, and it can be dismissive. Now I don't care about that at all. So if someone thinks I'm angry and it's a block and it's a trigger, like, cool, great that you think that. And maybe it is, and maybe it isn't. I trust that I am moving and will always be moving through those things. So that's not even, it's a non-issue to me. But I think that feeling of like, oh no, this is a trigger, like make sure that it's integrated, you're not blocked, and all these things can kind of get people to stifle really understanding what that is, or really even owning that, like, well, no, actually, I'm just really authentically feeling this situation, and this is how I am also allowed to express myself.
Especially as everyone goes into this work more, I think people, the first place they recognize it is like if their partner's not doing the work, they're like, ooh, that was a block today, or, with their friends or whatever, they start to recognize it and call it out. And I've been guilty of that. I'm like, oh, like I'll try to fix or point to things or whatever. And it was interesting. Daniel and I had a couples therapy session, and I was kind of doing that in the session. And the therapist is like, let's try not to psychoanalyze our partners. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, but I can help. And the therapist was like, he doesn't need you to help right now. He needs you to validate his experience as your partner. And I was like, okay, I learn it every day. Got it.
Of course, because we're always, we need to work through things, and we're also trying to work through things even on a subconscious level through other people.
And why do we feel the need to be the arbiter of their healing? Why do we need to fix their healing? Even if we can see it, why must we say it or feel the compulsion to say it? Because I think if we took a pause and really sat with it, there's a discomfort in knowing what could make it better, but knowing that it's, again, to what you said earlier, it's not our responsibility to fix. Everyone has their own journeys.
And I think that's part of finding your own voice too, right? Not being so involved with what other people are doing that you are not hearing you. Because that's what I used to do all the time. Oh, that person can have this. That person can use this. What does that person need? Oh, that person has X, Y, and Z. I can do it. And it's just like, where are you in all of this? Do you know what you need? Have you asked yourself what you need today? Have you asked yourself how you can feel powerful today? That doesn't involve another human being or doesn't involve a specific outcome from another person. And I think that that's what's so empowering to me when I think of my voice and how I belong to me is, this is one of my favorite quotes that was posted by Miriam Hassan a long time ago. She's been on the podcast too.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
Yeah. And it was care, don't carry. And that's just like such a beautiful thing. I can care about someone and I cannot carry their stuff, because caring about them still keeps me integrity with myself and my needs and who I am and what I have to say and where my life is heading to, while also being in community with someone that I really care about.
Yes. The still remaining in integrity with yourself, I think, is such a piece that so many people bypass. They see where it goes and then the line gets blurred and they don't even know where they ended and the next person began.
Yeah. And that's why people, when they're trying to find their voice or where they're hiding and they're so lost, and it's like, before you get further lost in the details of what you think it means to have a voice or be seen, let's backtrack to like where it started, or like how you're not doing it on a regular basis with the camera off, or not in front of other people, what does that really look like? So that you are just in relationship with you. That is where you find your voice. You are in deep intimacy with yourself. I'm so emotionally intimate with who I am, past versions of me, future versions of me, where I am right now. And I love it so much. And it's always because whether it's not even just about, oh, I need to fix this or I need to mend this. Sometimes it is, but like next to any of those parts that we're disconnected from, there's fear. Yeah, maybe there's hurt, but there's so much treasure sitting right next to it. And it's just like, we don't look at that. And that one piece of treasure is the first way to really connect back to like your voice. You're like, oh, that was also there next to this. Shit. Like, I didn't know that. But how do you find it if you're not going to that version of yourself and focusing on like, who am I? Who am I with me? Who am I, Salwa, with this company? Who am I, Salwa, with this person? Who, like, you know what I mean? Even when I was dating, what type of relationship do I have with myself while I am dating? And that was just like, that's how I found security and belonging with me. And then also being able to have those interdependent relationships.
That's the key. It's that security and a belonging cultivated internally. And when that is internally solid and that connection is solid, that's when your voice can come out. Because if you don't even feel safe to have your voice with yourself, if you are the criticism, if you are the one critiquing every single thing that comes out of your mouth, regardless of who's receiving it, if you're doing that to you, you don't have a solid relationship to speak freely.
Exactly. And you just project it onto everyone else. Of course, you're going to assume that they think you're X, Y, and Z because that's what you assume. Those are the only options you have given yourself, consciously and subconsciously. That's all you have to choose from. It's like, okay, let's change that for sure so that you can feel really powerful with yourself. And again, going back to what we're talking about, it takes practice. I didn't wake up, or you didn't wake up today suddenly just like, we didn't just go out at the right time and authenticity and power flew from the sky and we're like, oh, thank God we caught that one.
Yeah.
It takes time and practice and like listening to myself, having those moments, crying after using my voice, and then finally just being like, okay, I'm used to hearing me. There's so many people who can't even listen to themselves at all, refuse to listen, are so uncomfortable with listening to what they have to say. Like they're so not in relationship with their voice. It's not forever and you can change that, but stop worrying about how people are going to choose you or tell you that you belong to be here. Do you believe that yourself? How can you start to believe that yourself so that it doesn't matter what people say?
Yeah. And I think also through that process, you self-expand, because I think a big part for me was like cultivating that internal relationship with myself, but then, okay, I'm going to try out, not thinking about what everyone thinks and like just speak openly. And it's almost like you're dipping your toe. You're like, is that okay? And then
Yes.
you're like, whoa, nothing bad happened. I'm good. Okay, let me try again. And then you keep doing it again and again and again. Maybe sometimes you get backlash, or maybe sometimes something goes wrong, or maybe, the person that you're recording with, energy's off and you're like, oh no, it's because I was authentic. It's like, no. We didn't do anything wrong. That's going to happen. Let's like self-soothe, compassion. Okay, we're good. We're safe to still keep going.
Yes. And even to add on to that list of people who, well, I did, and I finally posted and I only got one like, great. Wow. One person saw you today. That's awesome. But did you see yourself? And again, when are you waiting for permission to, what are your markers of when you can have self-worth or not? Okay, now I can because this person, like, okay, these many people. Okay, well, now I really can. As opposed to, I get to speak when I want to speak about what I want to share. I'm building that relationship and self-trust with myself. It's not about how many people respond or don't respond to something. How am I witnessing my response to something? Just like our examples of, I felt this way this time. I was crying. This is how I felt in my first session. Now I'm just like, can do it with my eyes closed. And this is great. And I just, you know what I mean? Those are the things that are, I think, the most powerful forms of progress, when you can really own and see and witness that growth within yourself and hearing that and feeling very confident in that and not needing more evidence. And that evidence is beautiful, but trusting and knowing that how you evaluate yourself is top tier, is like the best, like that is such a great place to live in.
So true. I think even, with social media, with my Instagram, let's say, when I would start posting on certain things, in the beginning of it, I would be like, how many likes is it getting? How many comments? Like you're checking that number. And now when I post stuff on socials, I'm rewatching my content just because I think it's cool. I'm like, I like this song. I like the pacing. I like this little video. I am the number one viewer on all of my content because I'm like standing myself. And it's such a different feeling. And then the numbers at some point went up, but it was like they went up in the midst of me not noticing them. It's not that you don't care, it's that you care more about your opinion than the outside piece of it.
Yeah. And you're not waiting for the outside to give you permission
Yeah.
to show up as you are today, right now. And the more you continue to do so, you got to think about the foundation you're building. The bricks you're laying down right now based off of the external. Is that really what you want? Or is it, okay, let's kind of start fresh. What is the foundation I'm laying down? Where is it coming from? This wound? Or is it coming from, I trust where I am today. I am valuable and I deserve to be a beginner. I deserve to be heard and I deserve to still show up from where I'm at right now.
Okay, what would be your number one piece of advice to yourself when you were starting this journey of finding your voice? When you were like, I don't know how to find my voice, like blah blah blah. Like what would you say to that version of self for anyone out there who is at that phase where they're like, "Oh, I really need to examine where I'm keeping myself small."
Well, the first thing that comes to me is just start. Most people are trying to find all of the answers before they start. How do you, from a place where you're like, I've never really truly been authentically myself or felt, I'm sure what that feels like. You're now suddenly going to get all of those answers of what that feels like by absolutely not trying. It's not possible. You have to start from where you are. You have to believe that where I am is a worthy place to begin. Because when we're trying to find all of those whys and like what to be, and then we move, no, you get that clarity from movement. And that one movement can be, I'm going to do these meditations with my inner child. It can be, I'm going to start journaling around this. It's going to be, I'm going to record myself saying a bunch of stuff and I'm going to force myself to re-listen to it to the point where I'm so uncomfortable. Like I want to throw my computer out of the window. Anything is a starting point. You just need to begin. Stop trying to force answers that need actual practice and motion to feel into and get that clarity from. It's just not possible. So I wish I would tell myself that so that I wouldn't have, it is what it is, but I wouldn't have had spent so much time trying to get an answer or rush clarity and just been like, me starting is getting the answers. And I will continue to get more answers and be present and intentional with those answers and implement the answers that I'm receiving within, externally, whatever, all of that information and keep going from there. But you just have to give yourself permission to start.
I think there's so much fear of people putting themselves out there the wrong way, the quote unquote wrong way, or it looks unprofessional, or, all these things. And I think even more so now, think of why TikTok videos do so well. Cause they're like, you're hanging out with a friend. They're in like, think of Julia Fox's apartment tour. People like the relatable. So wherever you're at, someone else is probably in a similar situation and now feels seen because you're sharing that step, that phase, and you can share the growth and continuation. I mean, if I never started podcasting, I wouldn't learn to say, okay, that didn't sound great, but it's out there now. And I really learned what it felt like on all spectrums of emotions to put something out that I maybe wasn't 1,000% stamp of approval on. And I'm okay. I survived. I'm all right. How can we improve and keep it going and keep it going?
Yeah. And just start with, I'm finding my voice or I'm remembering what my voice is, because these are the stories that are muffling it. These are the shadows that are on top of it. These are the doubts and the insecurities. But today, moving forward, I'm open to discovering and remembering what my voice is. Not this is my voice, this is me forever, but like I'm open to like reconnecting with my voice. Where do I go from here?
Oh, yes. Mic drop. Love it. So where can everyone find you next? You are on to your next chapter after being an incredible, incredible TBM coach. And we are so, so thankful to have you. You are honestly just such an instrumental part of the team. we saw you the whole time and loved you so much and really saw your power at every stage of you finding your voice. And so thankful to have you. You really have touched thousands and thousands of lives. Community, go let her know.
Yeah.
And where can people find you next on your journey and follow along?
Yeah, so you can still follow me on my Instagram, salwa.yasmin, YAZMIN on Instagram. Fundamentalhunger.life is my website. It's also on my Instagram too. And I started that just with the mission of kind of what we're talking about today, which is what does it mean to belong to me? How can I do that with others? Finding emotional reprieve, Black sisterhood, and just no longer hiding from myself and helping other people, empowering other people to do the same. So you can find that all on my Instagram.
And one question we got asked a lot is about your beautiful relationship with your partner, Tommy, and some incredible communication skills that you guys have. And you guys are doing a live in the next few weeks, right? So people can tune in there too.
Oh, yeah. We're going to do live. I haven't set the date, but we're going to do a live. You can ask all the questions. Yeah, he's the best. I'm very madly in love. And I love that for me.
Oh, yes. I love that for you too. Expander couple.
Yeah. So yes, you will find that. And we will talk about, communication, using our own voice, talk about finding a person who roots me on more than I could ever imagine, who is just like, I see you, like, are you kidding me? You are so powerful, and like just has my back in the most incredible way, even when I didn't, or I'm slow to getting there. And he's just, there's no force, there's no pressure. He's like, you're going to keep finding it. I know it's here, but like, I'm here with you. And like, when it clicks for you, I can't wait. So he's been very instrumental in propping me up and loving me, every version of me. He is my rock. My voice definitely has never been stifled in this relationship. And that's because I found someone that sees me. And also because that is the type of person that I went into this relationship with as. And so I met, I found my voice, and I committed to being the me that wants to show up, in a romantic relationship.
Thank you so much, Salwa. Cannot wait to see your continued growth and success and just blossoming even more and more.
Thank you so much, Jessica. You too. This was great.
All right. Thanks, guys. See you next time.
Bye. Thank you.
I hope you guys enjoyed that episode as much as I did and we all did here. And I wanted to give a few takeaways and actionables of ways that you can start using the TBM work to integrate some of the themes we talked about in the episode. So one place I like to start, especially with this idea of being seen, to find our voice, to understand what's authentic to us, and to really see ourselves so we don't need the validation from other people in order to see us. I like to make a list of every single thought, fear, insecurity we have about ourselves, what our biggest inner critic is saying to us, and how we are most fearing being perceived by others. What is the worst case scenario thing that someone could say to you? Write all of those elements down. And once you look at it, I would start to take them through Unblock Shadow. You can find even more shadow words in there, but really understanding what are the places that you are still operating from those limiting beliefs, and how can you start to cultivate an experience with yourself where you are integrating them, where you're showing up for yourself, where you're honoring yourself, seeing yourself through all of your shadowy bits. And I would highly recommend checking out the Inner Child DI and the Fear DI. Those two places can help you really create compassion for yourself and process through any big emotions that might be coming up through all of this. Be sure to connect with us and ask any of your manifestations at our monthly check-in live call for Pathway members only next Wednesday, the 22nd at 12 p.m.
And in an effort to make sure to have representation in this process series, go ahead and submit any process testimonials you have, especially to our LGBTQ+ community, our BIPOC, as well as the Ys, which is anyone in the community who is 45 and over.
And we will see you all next week.